Reddit, what's your never again story? I worked as a tower hand for a construction company. I used to take of my land yard and move between booms 500-600 feet up. I also would slide down the outside legs untethered because it was faster than climbing down the ladder. I cringe when I think about that. There was zero chance of survival if I fell. Timeshare presentation. I now know what hell is like. 8 hours of my life I'll never get back. And of course the free trip was impossible to get. We will call you on Monday sometime in the next 2 months. Then you need to fly out on Tuesday and come back Wednesday. Went to a timeshare presentation in Mexico. The guy hit us up leaving the airport. As this was not our first time, we entered the room with the lady who was pitching and told her in all honesty, we will listen to your pitch, but we are not buying anything. We are only here for the free stuff. She was pissed. Told us we were wasting people's time and gave us the vouchers and told us to leave. But not before I chewed her ass about blindsiding people who had just got off a plane and were looking forward to a vacation. Totally worth it and didn't have to even listen to the hour-long pitch. Back in the days before soft contact lenses, you were supposed to clean them with hydrogen peroxide and then use a special neutralizer tablet afterwards. I forgot to use the neutralizer before I put my contacts in. Hydrogen peroxide in your eye hurts. I went down in the pantry of my grandma's house and ate 45-year-old peaches from a jar. Did you know the human body is capable of sheeting peaches in roughly the same consistency they were consumed? Me either. 103 temperature, sicker than a dog from the flu and constipated. I was miserable. I took 4 fiber pills in the morning and had hallucination fits for the next 4 to 5 hours. Desperately trying to get some sleep, I took an Ambien sleeping pill extra strength. Woke up 9 hours later not constipated anymore and having to do a sheet load of laundry. I was maybe 10 years old and on vacation with my family. We had gone to a restaurant for lunch that was supposedly locally famous, and I ordered a fried fish sandwich. It came, and as I took my first bite I told my mom that it tasted funny. She scolded me for being picky and told me to eat it. So I did. 2 hours later, we're doing some tourist stuff and am not feeling well at all. Again I complained, and my mom took me to the car to wait for everyone else. When they got back, they decided we needed to make one more stop on the way back. I was assured it would be quick. Mom and I waited in the car as I was feeling much worse. After we finally started to head back to the hotel, my dad was taking a winding road with lots of small hills, and he was going fast enough that the car was bouncing and such. I asked him to slow down because I wasn't feeling well and immediately threw up all over my mom. What followed was almost a week of the worst sickness I've ever had. Various fluids were coming out of both ends, and when there were no fluids left my body was still trying to purge with dry heaves. It was awful. I'm 32 now, and I haven't had a fried fish sandwich since. It's the strangest thing, because I'm fine with like fish sticks or just a piece of fried fish, but if you put it on a bun I can't bring myself to eat it. Every man eventually learns the lesson that muscle rub should never be used to treat a groin pull or similarly place ailment. Just came back from a 3-week backpacking trip with 5 other people. Trip was just originally just 3 others, my BF, brother and cousin, but 2 friends wanted to join. Jesus Christ, you gotta keep those trips intimate, and preferably with family. The 2 add-ons didn't want to do any of the same stuff we did, couldn't keep up, didn't want to try any local food, complained about walking, only packed flip-flops, commented after 30 minutes at the Louvre that it was just a bunch of paintings, etc. 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 Worst mistake. The original squad all chanted never again at least 50 times each the entire trip. So yeah, never again. I rented a beach cabin with 7 other people. 3 of them were content with just sitting on the beach. The rest of us got antsy and wanted to do things like play mini golf and visit a few breweries. The 3 beach bums were highly incensed that we wanted to split off. They didn't get that we're all adults, and not everybody has to always be doing the same thing all the time. I wonder what's inside the medicine capsules? What if I just eat that directly instead of swallowing the pill? Empties onto tongue and promptly gag. Had a baconator for lunch and dinner 3 days in a row. I was working long shifts and there was a Wendy's across the parking lot from where I was. After I finished dinner on day 3, my body says, "You must shit now." I shit my pants running to the bathroom. Had to clean up and head back to work with no underwear. 0 tenths, though I occasionally went to work commando on hot days after this. Never again will I ever loan money to a friend. Cave exploring. The serious kind, with lights, helmets, and occasional crawling. Fascinating while you're doing it, but scary as hell in hindsight. Ample opportunities to get seriously injured or worse, in the last place in the world you'd want to be rescued from. I was the designated driver for my son's 21st birthday. He was out with dad and about 10 of his close friends, so I was pretty busy driving back and forth schlepping them all home. Finally, I get the call from dad that it's time and our son needs to go home. My son is in the back seat with one of his friends when I feel a hand come from behind and grope my bob, then quickly moves down to my inner thigh. My son then says, "What do I need to do to get me some of that? We don't talk about that night." Edit/update. I'm humbled by the gold. Most generous stranger. Thank you. Easiest to respond to question/hate here as my inbox has imploded. Most of you were kind in your comments and found it humorous. Laughter was my goal in sharing. No, it wasn't the friend, as he was sitting near the door and my son had to lean forward from the back seat. While I use the phrase blackout drunk, I believe it could have even crossed into alcohol psychosis or hallucinations. No, I do not have a medical background. Just my thoughts, based on his complete disconnect from reality. Thank you to those that were concerned about alcohol poisoning. Yes, after the car ride home, I also had this concern. Dad and I kept a close watch on him while he slept it off. This happened 8 years ago. Yes, men find me attractive. I believe my shape/size reminded him of his GF. As for the hate, my son is not a sexual predator, period. He was raised knowing how to treat a woman. There was no need to counsel him. I know my son, and his personality is absolutely not that forward or aggressive, drunk, or sober. I believe he mistook me for his girlfriend, and this was an example of the banter they shared. Thank you to the fellow Redditors that shared their drunken stories. I have no doubt that their night of drunkenness in no way is a reflection of who they are. Rode an Amtrak train from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. I thought I was a prodigy by choosing coach seating over a sleeper car, or flying as I was saving some money by doing so. Jump forward to 25 hours in the same seat. Dude next to me pulling a German vs Poland invasion of the armrest. Baby screaming all night in the back of the car and I couldn't sleep. The toilet situation had deteriorated on board to the point where I would use elbows and my boots to open and close the door and flush the toilet as my fellow riders were baffled by the concept of flushing and utilizing a trash bin for paper towels. I've been awake 25 hours by this point and it's 3:45 AM. If I ever do this, it's gonna be in a sleeper car. Duck the savings. Murder on the Orient Express had the right idea. Edit. Holy crap, my inbox has been blowing up all day today. Lol. I'm glad there are other people who shared this type of experience. Edit 2. Might need to make a post myself about travel horror stories. Jesus guys. Being young and stupid enough to drink whatever mixed drinks my friends were handing me at the bar when I was in college. This was about 8 years ago, and I was probably 22 at the time. Before this I had only ever really had beer. My friend knew the bartender at the place we were hanging out. She was making the drinks way too strong. I remember one of the last drinks I had that night was called Idios Methodicca. After we left the bar, I'm told I refused to stick with the group and ended up walking a few miles to the other side of town because I'm a complete idiot. At some point I realized I was super drunk and literally called the police on myself because I was sick, puking and lost. They ended up calling an ambulance. I had no insurance at the time and it cost me $600. Apparently when you're that drunk the police won't just take you home. Didn't expect that and paid the price. Edit. People have commented that $600 is cheap for an ambulance ride. The bill from the hospital was huge and actually ducked up my credit score because I was broke. I woke up in the hallway of the hospital sprawled out on a gurney the following morning. I had puked on my shirt, so at some point they had put me in a hospital gown. Eventually hospital staff realized I was up and moving around. They were all excited because apparently they had some sort of bet for how long I was going to be passed out. They handed me a pamphlet about the dangers of binge drinking, and I was out the door. Edit. The staff was actually really helpful and gave me some sports drinks to help me out. They didn't just kick me out. I just didn't want to get that deep into it. I walked 5 miles back to my house with my hospital attire blowing in the breeze. I had to stop to puke twice. The funniest part about this lovely walk home is that it was smack in the middle of all the student housing by my college. I had long hair at the time, and it was all greasy and crazy. My appearance was a mix between escaped mental patient / infected by zombie virus, but hadn't yet fully turned. The looks I was getting from people I passed on the sidewalk were priceless, and even in my terribly ill state I had a few laughs at myself for how ridiculous this ordeal was. I managed to get home, to take a shower and sleep for a couple of hours, before having to go to work at Jimmy John's as a delivery driver. Edit. I never really knew what it meant to say RIP my inbox, but I've reached that point. Thanks for all the laughs. I've commented on as many of your responses as I could. Thanks for all the upvotes. This was so much fun. Stay away from those AMFs. I had no idea it was a popular drink until today. I was once in a bet to do an apple juice challenge in where I had 30 minutes to drink a gallon of apple juice. Not too hard, right? Easy $5 to be made? Not so much. What my asshole friends didn't tell me is that when you drink so much apple juice in such a small amount of time it all needs to exit the body, butthole style. What followed were the most intense, volcano blasting, a-hole destroying hours of my life. It was like a fire hose spraying acid that some deckhead lit on fire. I didn't complete the challenge. I lost $5. And I even paid for the apple juice. Never fucking again apple juice. Never again. Edit. Wow, thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Edit. Glad you're all enjoying the tale of my but peeing lava, and to all of you who have done similar things, I feel your pain. Quick funny note about that night. There was a girl I was into there, and she was also outside the door with the cackling jerks listening to me become a human fire hydrant. We did not get together, lol. Once I made 2 terrible food decisions in a single day. This was years ago, when I was in my middle 20s. I woke up hungry and went to the fridge to grab some leftover Taco Bell, but had accidentally forgotten it in the car overnight. Still, I thought if I microwaved it, it'll be fine. So I ate a Taco Bell chicken quesadilla that'd been sitting out for over 20 hours. Just as I was finishing it up, my buddy called and begged me to join him on a just friends hang session with this girl he was trying to date. They wanted to go to this Asian seafood place I'd always seen driving by, but never been to. So we go, and they have a kind of mini seafood super platter that's meant to feed the whole table. Like a super sampler. We get that. It's supposed to feed 6, but we finish it off as a party of 4. That afternoon, it began. My friend called and asked if I was feeling bad from the seafood, and I told him yeah, but it was probably something from earlier in the day for me. He said, yeah, we are feeling a little queasy too, but we've got tickets tonight, so we're just gonna drink water and go for it. I got a date, woo. I wished him luck and went back to Fallout 3. By midnight I thought I was going to turn inside out. It was so bad, I would have called 911 if my phone had been in the bathroom with me, but it was on my nightstand, and I physically could not get to it. I could hear it ringing occasionally, so I hoped that whoever was trying to call would stop by and take me to the hospital. It was the longest night of my life, but by early afternoon the next day, I was coming around. I tried to stay hydrated by letting shower water run into my mouth during the event. The toilet was right next to the tub and I could sit and hang my head into the tub at the same time under the shower head. So I just ran the shower on my head, crapped my guts out the back, and vomited my soul out the front. Turns out the calls late at night were my buddy calling to come pick them up because they had both had accidents at the concert. On their first date, they are married now. This was before Uber or Lyft, in case anyone is wondering. They finally managed to get his uncle to get them. Never again. TLDR. Double ultra food poisoning while friends sheet themselves on their first date. Edit. Cleaned up the grammar and syntax somewhat. I've always been bad about sloppy draft style writing, but I know it can bother people sometimes.